Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to Scotland once again and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel many times before. I've had some really nice beers from these guys over the last couple of years. They are still a relatively new addition to the Scottish beer scene, but I think it's fair to say that they are one of the most highly regarded breweries in Scotland these days, and they're best known for their New England Hazy IPAs. So if that's a style that you enjoy, then this is a brewery that you definitely want to check out. Now, this is a beer that I was given by my sister's friend Martin, so a big thank you to him, and it is one that is supposed to be pretty nice actually, so I have to say I'm very curious to see how this one turns out. So hopefully it's another good beer, hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we are going to head to Glasgow once again. We're going to go to Yoker to be precise, and that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from Overtone Brewing Company. So this particular beer is called Southern Hemisphere. It comes in at 6.6% ABV, and once again, it's another New England Hazy, whatever you want to call it, IPA. So yeah, an interesting hop bill in this one. Some hops that we've had quite often and one that we haven't had all that much of. So yeah, this should make for a really interesting tasting. But from what I remember, the Northern Hemisphere and Southern Hemisphere IPAs are released every year. So I need to make sure that next year I have a look at the Northern Hemisphere one when it comes out again. I think this one was released actually at the start of December in 2021. But yeah, nice to finally get around to reviewing this one for you. I've had this one sitting for a little bit, but I'm sure it will still be alright. But let's crack on then and see how we go. So, as always with my reviews, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Overtone Brewing Company before, and you will no doubt see me add more to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you happen to be interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Scottish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, usually when I go home to the motherland of Scotland. And as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then, to tell you a little bit once again about Overtone Brewing then. So Overtone Brewing, as I've mentioned to you already, are based in Glasgow, and the company was founded back in 2017 by Bo Wei Wang, who is originally from Beijing in China. So he had been a home brewer for a number of years before founding the brewery, and the name Overtone is taken from his love of techno music, and that's also the reason that you get these lovely kind of techno style artworks on the front of the cans. I'm not sure if Bo Wei actually designs those himself. I need to ask him at some point. But hopefully I can go through to Glasgow when I get back home to Scotland and meet him. That would be very cool. But in the early days, Bo Wei hired Dan Miller, who's from New Hampshire over in the northeast of the US in New England, to come in as his head brewer. And he'd previously worked as a head chef, but he was also a brewer in England, New York, and he also worked in Scotland for 6 Degrees North, who do some very nice Belgian style beers. You need to make sure you check them out as well if you're interested in Scottish beer. But also involved at the brewery is Martin Conahan, who worked in the craft beer scene down in New Zealand for quite a number of years. He takes part in the brewing but does various other things in the production process as well. And they've also got Charlie these days, who's involved in the brew team also. The brewery itself can be found in the New Albion Industrial Estate in Yoker, near Renfrew and Clydebank, and they began operations there in 2018. But the brewery don't have a kind of fixed range of beers, they're always brewing new things, and as of February 2022, when I'm filming this review for you, they've produced a little bit over 60 different kinds of beers. Over the last few years, I've had various different styles from them. The very first beer I tried from them was actually a coffee IPA, a Rwandan coffee IPA, and that was absolutely beautiful. But of course they really made their name when it came to the New England Hazy IPAs, and they, you know, the hype really started to surround this brewery when they sent their beers down to England. They were always very well regarded in Scotland, but yeah, it was really when they got their beers into places further down south in England. that there was a lot of hype surrounding this brewery. But yeah, they've always been really nice. I've had some very good West Coast IPAs from them as well. And they do some really nice imperial stouts these days. I still need to try one of their sour beers, so that's something I will keep an eye out for at some point in the future. But yeah, I think that's everything I can really tell you about Overtone Brewing Company for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can of course check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all those different beers that they've done. So yeah, let's crack on then and see how we get on with this beer itself. I'll just let you have a little look at the artwork on this one before we open up. As you can see, it's got that lovely standard overtone style. I believe the Northern Hemisphere is the same colour as this one, but a slightly different colour in terms of the, you know, the shiny bit and things. I think the Northern Hemisphere might be gold or whatever. But yeah, as we said earlier, a 6.6% New England IPA. This one plain silver top on the can there. It tells you on the back here, Overtone Brewing, our IPA uses hops from the Southern Hemisphere bursting with tropical fruits and citrus, giving you that full body creamy mouthfeel. So the hop bill in this one is Citra, Topaz, Galaxy and Nelson Sauvin. I'm surprised they're using Citra in this, but maybe it's New Zealand grown Citra, I don't know. But Citra, of course, as we know, originally it's an American hop. Usually in New England IPA is a big kind of soft mango with a little bit of a lemony limey sort of thing. 14% alpha acid. Topaz, if I remember rightly, is an Australian hop. It comes in, it's got quite a high alpha acid as well, I believe about 14% alpha acid, and it usually gives you a kind of lychee flavour. I've not had Topaz all that often. Galaxy is an Australian hop as well, about 14% alpha acid. That usually gives you quite a big passion fruit, mango, slightly pineapple-y sort of thing. And then Nelson Sauvin, of course, from New Zealand, the original New Zealand hop, 16% alpha acid, and that big white, green, grapey gooseberry sort of thing. So yeah, I really like how that hop bill sounds in this one. But as we said, 6.6% New England IPA. You've got the lovely overtone artwork on this one. And there we go. It is very nice looking. So yeah, without further ado then, let's get this guy out. We'll get on with the tasting. And a big thank you once again to my sister's friend Martin, who gave this one to me. He is of course from New Zealand, but has significant Scottish ancestry. So yeah, he got me this one along with two beers from Tempest that were New Zealand hop. But I'd already reviewed the Tempest ones, so this was the first new one that he. This is the first one that I hadn't had that he got me. So that was pretty cool. But yeah, so we'll get this guy out into the glass and see how we go. So yeah, have a little look at that then. So as you can see, this beer actually looks very, very nice. Yeah, so before the head disappears on this one, then you can see it's poured with about a 1/3 finger of a frothy. Cool board's moving forward there. It's poured with about a 1/3 finger of a frothy, I would say perfect white head. That is starting to fade away to just be a very thin foamy layer, and it's leaving a nice kind of thicker foamy ring around the edge of the glass. But as you can see, the colour of this one is pretty much perfect white. But in terms of the colour of the beer itself, it's got a lovely, very pale, bright yellow colour actually. I really do like how this one goes in terms of its appearance. But yeah, one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, one or two little ones going up toward the bottom of the head there. But overall, it really does look as you would expect from a New England IPA. So remember, the colour of your beer, I always like comparing these New England IPAs to different fruit juices. That's just what they remind me of. And as I say, this one is very much like a kind of pale pineapple mango sort of juice. The colour of your beer, of course, is dependent on one, the type of malts that you use. That goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, the length of your wort boil is also going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugars caramelise, and thus you get a darker colour of beer. Any adjuncts that you put in or any barrel aging that you do will also affect the colour too, but in New England IPAs you don't normally have to care about those particular things. But yeah, the level of haze on this one as well, I have to say, for a 6.6%, the level of haze in this is pretty damn impressive actually. And usually the level of haze in these beers depends on the yeast that you're using, the wheat content and the oat content. There's not really a rule about the level of haze in relation to the alcohol. But yeah, it can vary from brewery to brewery, recipe to recipe, and so on. But yeah, this one does look pretty damn nice. So yeah, I don't think we've got anything else we really need to say about the appearance of this beer then, so we can get started on the aroma. Very, very curious about this, exactly as you would expect for a New England IPA in terms of appearance. So, aroma time. Oh yeah, that does smell very, very nice. But we know Overtone have really nice aromas when it comes to these New England IPAs. I'll say as well, it does still smell pretty fresh. It's held up quite well. Of course, I brought this can over to Sweden with me from Scotland. But yeah, the aroma out of this is very, very nice. And both on the malty side and on the hoppy side of things as well. First impression of this is that it's actually very smooth, creamy, and soft, fruity New England IPA. This one, the green component's leaning more towards the grassy side of things for me. But yeah, a very, very inviting aroma to this one. But let's break it down for you a wee bit more and just see what we can get. So, aroma-wise, on the malty side of things, yeah, the backbone of this beer, there's a lot of soft white bread in there. There's a teeny bit of bread crust, but you almost don't notice it. For me, there's a lot of that kind of barley malt white bread backbone in there coming out. You can smell a wee bit, and if you take the aroma in a bit more deeply, you can definitely smell a little bit of the wheaty bitiness at the back of the nose. But yeah, for me, the aroma of the malt base in this is very much like a soft white bread and a more kind of creamy, oaty character. So I really like, I do really like how this goes together. But yeah, bread crusty backbone, but that's quite minimal. A lot of soft white bread, a wee bit of wheaty bitiness in the back of the nose, and also a nice big kind of creamy, oaty sort of flavour. I think the interesting thing about this, I was trying to pick out whether there's a little bit of sweetness in this. I do get a teeny little bit of like a Werther's Original butter candy sweetness sort of thing, but yeah, not too much. It really does strike me as more of a kind of oaty, creamy New England IPA rather than anything else. So yeah, the way that goes together, I think is really nice. In terms, this one really strikes me a little bit more. And it's a little bit more like some of the kind of treehouse New England IPAs that I've had before, or some of the old school Swedish ones, like the Narangi, the Amazing Haze, and stuff like this. It's a little bit more kind of along those lines, to be quite honest with you. But I really do think that works quite well with this one. So again, it gets a big thumbs up from me in that regard. I really like the kind of more creamy oaty malt base in this. But this is one of the things, I complain that there's too many New England IPAs in the market these days. But if you go to different breweries and try different ones, you'll really find you can get a fair diversity. There's quite a big spectrum of flavours in these New England IPAs. For me, at least, there's 6 different elements you should think about with a New England IPA. So there's the yeasty character, the sort of Riley and grainy character, although that's more prominent in American brewed New England IPAs. You've got the wheaty side of things, the oaty, creamy side of it, the barley malt bread, and then you've also got a little bit of sweetness to them. So there's a lot of different things you can think about when it comes to these New England IPAs. But for me, this one, I think, goes together very, very nicely. So yeah, I like what this beer is doing. Yeah, on the I think that's everything we really need to say about the malty side of it. Actually, I do get 1 or 2 little crackery, woody kind of things from the yeasty side of things, a little touch of that farmhousey note, but I'm sure we'll notice that a little bit more in the actual flavour of the beer. But let's look at the hoppy side of things then and see how we go. So, So, the green component, there's a teeny little bit of earthiness to this, but really not a lot, to be honest with you. The more that I smell of the green component as well, I get quite a deep floral aromatic sort of thing out of it, which is quite nice. Now, you have to remember New England IPAs rely on late edition hopping and dry hopping mainly. There is a little bit of early edition hops sometimes, and remember, early edition hops are the ones that give you the bitterness. This is more prominent in West Coast IPAs. Late edition hops give you a little bit of bitterness, but also flavour and aroma, and then dry hopping is all about the flavour and aroma. Basically, as you go through the period of the wort boil, bitterness is traded off in favour of flavour and aroma. So yeah, New England IPA is not the most bitter, although some of them can be. But yeah, the aroma that you get out of this one, I think, on the green component is quite nice. A little bit of a deeper floral aromaticity. It feels a little bit wet in that sense, but still the grassiness is coming out in this quite nicely, and I would suspect that that mostly comes from the Citra. I can't remember what the green component of Topaz is like. Galaxy's going to give you a fair bit of floral character, and so is Nelson Sauvin. So I'm surprised that the Citra, maybe the Citra's been used as the early addition hop in this, or as the main kind of bittering hop, if that makes sense. But yeah, goes together quite nicely. And again, the more that I smell of this, the more yeastiness I get out of it, which is quite interesting. But on that fruity side of things, it's really well balanced in a sense. I get a lot of I can smell the big juicy mango both from the Citra and there's a little bit of the passion fruit in there, but there's a nice big juicy mango both from the Citra and the Galaxy in this. Absolutely. And I get a wee bit of pineapple. It's mainly, there's a few like tropical fruit subtleties to this one. There are a few little tropical fruit subtleties to this one, but not a lot. I'd say mainly it's a big juicy mango. And then on the front of the nose, you do get the big white green grapey thing from the Nelson Sauvin, but a lot of lychee as well, and that'll be from the Topaz. But interestingly, Citra in a West Coast IPA, if you put Citra into a West Coast IPA, it will give you a little bit more of a gooseberry lychee kind of thing here. So it's almost as if the Topaz and the Nelson Sauvin are kind of showing you what Galaxy would give you in a West Coaster. But as I've said to you before, different hops behave in different ways depending on where you put them. So there's a lot of there's a lot of different aspects to this that you can think about. So yeah, it actually gets a big thumbs up for me. This is a really nice aroma. I've always been a great fan of the New Zealand hops ever since I went down there in 2015. But yeah, this beer definitely gets a big thumbs up from me. I really like what it has going on. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the aroma. But as I always say, take a bit of time just to ponder over the aroma before you get stuck into it. But I think this one will do for me quite nicely. So yeah, let's have a little look at the flavour then and see how it goes. I always say take a bit of time to ponder over that aroma, but let's do this. So this is the Southern Hemisphere 6.6% New England IPA from Overtone Brewing in Glasgow, back home in the motherland of Scotland. Slàinte, skål, cheers. Oh yeah. That's very nice. It's actually held up very, very well, I have to say. It is in actually very, very nice condition. Yeah, I was a bit bothered about this because I thought, I was wondering, maybe, pardon me, I did wonder, maybe, I had this beer a little while, but I did wonder if it was going to hold up quite nice, and obviously I've had it in the plane and all of this. But it has held up really well, so that just goes to show you the Overtone beers will last a good 2-3 months and still be in pretty damn solid condition. So it goes to show you they are making very, very good beers through there in Yoker. But yeah, I like this. It gets a big thumbs up from me. So this is worth trying. So keep an eye out for this one when they re-release it next year. And I will need to have a go at the Northern Hemisphere as well. But yeah, big thumbs up. Yeah, first impression of it though is that it's a big, smooth, oaty, juicy and creamy New England IPA. This one, the floral character is a wee bit more prominent in the flavour than it was in the aroma, right enough. But yeah, there are quite a few really nice things about this beer. So this is absolutely worth trying. But anything from Overtone is worth trying. These guys really know what they're doing. But yeah, let's try and break this down for you and describe the flavour a wee bit more in depth actually. But this is a very nice, big, smooth, oaty, creamy. If you're a fan of the more kind of treehousey, oaty leaning New England IPAs, this is going to be one that goes down quite well with you. Yeah, it's great. So let's go through this beer as we always do. So middle third of the palate then. Backbone of the beer, you've got a lovely little bit of a bread crusty note coming out of it. That just lingers there. On top of that, you've got a nice kind of bread crusty thing there, but on top of that you get a lot of soft, fluffy white bread actually. Now on top of that layer as well, this is a very layered flavour, this one, but you can certainly feel that the wheat is doing a little bit to thicken that bready layer out actually, but it also adds an element of smoothness to it as well, which is very, very interesting. And the wheatiness, it does have a little bit of bitiness to it the further you go into the aftertaste. So there are quite a few different things going on in this one, but this is once again a really solid New England IPA. There's a lot of reason that Overtone are getting hype at the moment, and it's thoroughly deserved in my experience. So, yeah, I think I think the on top of the wheaty layer, if you like, you do get a nice kind of oaty creaminess. Coming out of this beer too, which I think is really, really nice. So the oaty creaminess for me, and as I've always said, oats are usually an indicator of how old your New England IPA is. Usually they give you a good idea of what the age is like, but certainly in the middle of your palate with this one, if you go in the middle third of your palate, if you go down the central line of your tongue, you can feel a nice thick oaty kind of creamy layer to it. But then as you move out toward the edge of that middle third of your palate, it gets a little bit drier and more you do get a little bit more of that kind of drier, powdery, oaty sort of thing, but the oats for me in the main are very, very creamy. The interesting thing about this beer as well is that there's a little circle right in the dead centre of your palate where you do get a little bit of that kind of Werther's Original sweetness. So yeah, there's a nice little bit. There is a nice little bit of a Werther's Original sweetness in there, which is good. But yeah, the oaty creaminess, I think that really just lingers there into the aftertaste, and it is. I really like the malt base of this one. I don't know why it's striking me so much. Maybe just because I've not had an Overtone in quite a wee while actually. Because obviously when I go home I go crazy with these beers and the Vault Cities and stuff like this. But yeah, the oaty creamy side of things in this I think is very, very nice in fact. Yeah, it's really good. I think that covers everything we need to say about the malty side of this beer. The only other thing I can say about the middle third of the palate is that it does develop a wee bit of that kind of Jacob's cream crackery sort of thing the further into it that you go. So we can leave it there. But on the border region then, let's focus on the more yeasty side of things. On the border region between middle third and back third of your palate, again you get a little bit of a bready build up in there, a wee bit of bread crust. Base of the back third of your palate there's a wee bit more, the grainy bread crusty note comes out. There is a thicker white bready sort of thing as well, which I really enjoy. And that does get a wee bit more grainy. You can feel a little bit of the wheat. The wheat, of course, creeps into the back third of the palate as well, and you can feel there's a bit more bitiness in there too. But then sitting on top of all of that, you've got the more yeasty characteristics of the beer showing their head. So, on the on that yeasty side of things, it's the yeasty side of the beer is quite interesting because it has a wee bit of that crackery, Jacob's cream crackery sort of thing, a bit of that sort of fresh bread crusty kind of character, but it does feel a little bit more like a kind of dense dough, a dense bready dough actually, and that for me works out really well. So on top, or on the back third on the back third of your palate, you can feel the flavour is a little bit taller. So yeah, a little bit taller on the back third of your palate. Then as you move further forward, it just condenses down a wee bit. The flavours squash together a little bit more, and then yeah, so you can feel the malty and yeasty side of this beer. I think is very, very nice actually. So again, it gets a big thumbs up from me in that regard. But yeah, on the overall, the malty yeasty side of things I think is very nice. But like I say, a very oaty, creamy leaning IPA for me. But yeah, I enjoy this. It's been a bit different from the ones that I've had in recent times from the Swedish breweries, but still a few more New England IPAs to work my way through right enough. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, which of course is the most interesting thing with the New England IPAs. Back corners of the palate, I do get a little bit of earthiness there, but as you move further forward, you start to get the more kind of floral aromatic side of things. It does have a wee touch of spiciness in the front corners of the palate, but then around the front curve of the tongue, the beer is markedly lighter and more grassy in a sense. So I like that. I do like that. Yeah, on the green component overall, I think it really does lean more towards the grassy side of things for me, but it does have a wee bit of that deeper floral aromatic note. But yeah, grassy side of it is a little bit more dominant for me within the green component. But I don't think there's anything else we really need to say about that green component. I think we can go on to the fruity side of the beer as well. So yeah, front third of your palate then. Border region between front third and middle third of your palate. Again, you get a little bit of a bready build up there. The base of that front third of your palate is a little bit smoother and you've got more of a white bready sort of thing. And on top of that, you get that nice juicy bubble where the fruits just kind of, the fruity esters roll their way out of the beer. So this one is actually, on the fruity side of things, it is actually quite similar to what I was picking up in the aroma. It's actually a very kind of oily and smooth fruity character that you get out of this one. So yeah, at the back of that front third of your palate then, it's definitely the Citra and the Galaxy that are doing the thing. So at the back, you've got a wee touch of a, yeah, you do have a little bit of a, you do get a wee bit of a stronger passion fruit. As you move further forward, there's a wee bit of a more mango-y sort of thing. Then underneath, you do get wee hints of apricot and stuff like that. But yeah, this is the Citra and the Galaxy really doing their thing. For me, it's a big juicy mango that dominates the back half of that front third of your palate. But when you move into the more oily front half of the front third of your palate, it's the Nelson Sauvignon and the Topaz that take over. So you've got that gooseberry, white green grapey sort of thing, but also the lychee flavours in there as well. And I guess the Citra is going to contribute a little bit to that too, in a sense. But yeah, the front half of that front third of your palate is really nice and oily. So yeah, nice lychee flavour in there, absolutely. And the Nelson Sauvignon's white green grapey gooseberry sort of thing. So yeah, fruity wise, I think this beer goes together really nicely. And as I say, for me this is quite oaty and creamy, but at the same time the fruits give you that juiciness, but they also feel just a little touch oily in a sense too. I don't think there's anything else we really need to say about the flavour of this beer. Actually, I think we can move on to the mouthfeel of this one then. But this is a beer that's definitely worth trying. The hop profile on this is quite interesting. So yeah, very impressed with this. This is absolutely worth trying. One of the more oaty creamy ones I've had from Overtone actually. But yeah, let's look at the mouthfeel then just to round off the review. So, mouthfeel wise, this beer is definitely, mouthfeel wise, this beer for me is definitely kind of pushing towards the top end of mid-body. The mouthfeel on this is very thick, especially for a 6.6%, it's impressive. But yeah, pushing towards the top end of mid-bodied. Carbonation is very smooth, it's got a really nice big smooth creamy mouthfeel to it. In terms of IBUs, I think this is like a standard 25 IBU, something like that. I'm not getting a lot of bitterness off this beer at all, but yeah, really nice big smooth oaty creamy mouthfeel to this one. Not a lot of sweetness to it, but at the same time the oats do give you a degree of sweetness at the same time, and the fruits, as we say, it's quite well balanced between the tropical side of things on the more oily smoother fruits, I guess you could say, of the Topaz and the Nelson Sauvignon. So yeah, this beer for me certainly does the job, so it gets a big thumbs up actually. Yeah, impressed with this one. It might just be because I've not had an Overtone in quite a wee while, but yeah, this is one of the ones that's really impressed me actually. I think most of the ones I was drinking back in Scotland actually were the big heavies from Overtone, so maybe it's that too. Maybe the lighter ones are just, maybe I've just not paid enough attention to the lighter beers from Overtone in recent times, right enough. But yeah, beautiful beer and definitely up to the standards of Overtone. It's one of the ones that struck me a little bit more from them over the last little while actually. But I think we can leave it at that for this one. So once again, Thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Overtone Brewing Company, and we will no doubt return to these guys at some point soon. But until the next time, Slanger just now, and I'll catch you guys later. This was the Southern Hemisphere, a 6.6% New England IPA from Overtone Brewing Company in Yoker in Glasgow, back home in the motherland of Scotland. Check out my social media, check out their social media, and if you haven't already, try some of these Overtone beers. See you guys in the next review.